Hey, what's up? This is Joshua, daily video blog. I am, for one of the first times ever, gonna re-record a video because in making it, the one I just recorded, it was about 10 minutes long, and all of a sudden at the end, I thought of something that would actually make my point better, which kind of rarely happens. Usually if I have another idea, I will tack it onto the end. But in this one, it works like this. I had a really notoriously bad teacher at school when I first moved to Minnesota and went to MCAT. Everyone tried to convince me to avoid this teacher for any and all classes and not to have this guy. So I tried that. And of course, what ended up happening was a whole bunch of scheduling conflicts, and instead I had this guy for 2 classes at once. And I was super bummed out. And I happened to work with a bunch of seniors who were like, no, that guy's awesome. And actually, I'm going to say his name. So the teacher's name was Russ Mrochek. He died a few years ago. He's one of my favorite teachers ever. So someone said, nah, Russ is awesome. The problem is he doesn't assign enough work. And if you want to get anywhere, just triple the amount of work he assigns. You'll actually learn stuff. You'll do less work than in other classes where they're trying to kill you, and he'll pay attention to you. Because basically, if you did what he asked for, he didn't really give a shit about your existence, which was extraordinarily strange. So I followed that advice, and what ended up happening was that a lot of my kind of colleagues would do the amount of stuff he asked for, and as a result, when they got to the end, they felt like they hadn't learned anything, and so they would retake certain classes to try to make up for it. I had done, as a result of it, a shitload of work, and I got super good critiques and a lot of good feedback, and I was able to actually get somewhere in that class. It's only just occurred to me that that was this sort of quantity over quality idea in motion. He would usually only ask for one thing, so the other students would only do one thing. That meant that at any given time, they could really only learn one thing or learn whatever it took to get that one thing done. Because I was doing 3 to 6 times the stuff that was asked for, I was learning 3 to 6 times as much. And rather than either phoning it in and wrapping it up quickly or trying to invent a way to make the one thing stretch to fill the deadlines and make it seem like it was a real project, instead I was doing a lot more work and having a lot more deliverables and embracing a kind of good enough is good enough philosophy, which basically meant that I got a lot more work done than everybody else I was in class with. And as such, I didn't feel compelled to retake the class or to try to compensate for it in some way, because it actually went well. One of the things I forgot over time was how important quantity is towards doing good work. That you don't try to avoid doing bad work. You actually do bad work to get to the good work. You do bad work to understand whether something actually is a bad idea. You do bad work to have contrast. You do something and you're like, oh, that sucks. And then you do something else and you're like, oh, that sucks. And you do enough things that suck, and all of a sudden you might realize when you've done something actually good, which is kind of a nice feeling. So, God, it's hot. So this idea of quantity over quality is super critical, and it's weird that it's not more popular, because if you think about something like if you've been to art school and you did a foundation year of studio courses, that entire philosophy is quantity over quality. You're expected to be engaged, you're expected to give a shit, but you're not expected to be precious about the work, and you're not actually expected to do good work. You are just expected to work. Later, we end up adopting these philosophies that don't really work as well, where we have to come up with an idea. When you're in your foundation year, you never have to come up with an idea. You just go and do the work. Later, we sort of conceptualize things, and the more we conceptualize them, for whatever reason, the less work we do. We narrow it down really tightly, and we try to be more efficient and smarter. All of that stuff kind of leads to a lower quality of work, in my opinion. Where the real magic happens is when you do a shitload of work, and that work becomes research for the projects you're doing. If you start a poster and you commit to doing 10 versions of it, you work in a way that is radically different. You stay very high level and top level. You stay very gestural, and you're able to determine whether something is good. And then later, you can tighten it up or figure out if it's good or bad or whatever. But what we usually end up doing later on is we come up with an idea for a poster. We edit before we even try the thing. Maybe we bypass sketching because it seems inefficient, and instead we try to make this one masterpiece that's worked until it's as done as it can be, instead of working through a quality process where we make lots and lots of things and we filter down to the one good thing that sort of emerges from that. Essentially, working in a way where the cream rises to the top, as opposed to working in a way where you just try to make the cream and you basically negate the foundation of it and all the other stuff that you need to do. So I'm trying to think why I'm thinking about this. I think this idea is in play constantly, and I think if you want to avoid creative block, for example, a really easy way to do that is to lower the standards of what you need to do, but up the quantity. Essentially lower the quality. Embrace a good enough is a good enough. Work in a way where you're figuring out if the idea might work, and then stop if you've determined that it does, so that you can move on to the next idea and the next idea. And instead of treating projects like I have 2 weeks and I need to make a poster, treat the project as I have 2 weeks and I need to make 5 posters. And you're gonna work differently. You're gonna learn new things, and you're gonna cover more ground. And you're also gonna earn a kind of confidence, because you're gonna know that you did try these other things and they didn't work, or they didn't work for what you're doing, but now you have more kind of physical, high touch experience behind that. And you're gonna make better decisions going forward. I know that for me, things sort of changed radically when I changed all my deliverables from I need to make a flyer or a poster or a book to I need to make 10 versions of this thing. How am I going to get that done? And what does that take? And what does that look like? All right. That's kind of another long one. Now my mouth is dry and parched. Thanks for watching, as always.